Hey, what's up, Quincy?
Let's see. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Quincy,
Yeah. What's going on?
How you
what's
doing,
good,
man?
man?
Oh man, just trying to stay alive out here, man.
Crazy times, man.
I know. So crazy.
Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do is, by the way, I don't know if you remember Kevin, but he's he does all the writing and everything for the magazine. So I figured we'd patch the three of us in here and just kind of have a conversation in that format. Then I'm gonna transcribe it all afterwards and put it all in the magazine.
Sounds
Got
good.
you, got the cover with you on it right back there.
I see it.
Good times. You and Lorenzo on that one. It's a long time ago, man. It feels
Yeah,
like
I was just about to say that was a really long time ago.
yeah, man. But all right, cool. So yeah, Kev, you want to start it off, and then we'll just kind of just fire back and forth.
Yeah, sure. And first off, just thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Mhm.
Physically, how you been feeling?
Physically, I feel good, man. It's been a process. It's difficult. Not really anything I've really been through in my life. The first time I had the neck injury, I had surgery. So this past time, what we did was we just kind of like just waited to see if I could heal on my own. Just doing rehab and seeing, where the process would lead me. Unfortunately, it didn't really, get me to exactly where I needed to be by the time the season started. But we're just kind of like seeing where I end up, when it becomes time.
Q, because I'm curious that you've been talking a lot about this on social media recently, this topic, and putting the physical aspect aside, what kind of toll does it take on you on any player mentally when you rehab and get back, all the way back from a major injury like that, and then in your first game back, sustain another, major injury and know the road that you have ahead and everything. What does that do to a player?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think if I were to just explain it for myself, I mean, you really go into a pretty dark place. I mean, you could almost call it depression. I think we all work. I think I've been playing football since I was 11 years old, and I've wanted to be at this spot my whole, since I was 11, right? So to get here, then to sign, a big contract, that's what every guy wants, to get that validation that, the team really wants to keep you here. They want to give you the big money, to get that contract. And then that following year to get injured in the first game, it's difficult. And then for me, I spend a lot of time just trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do now? It's a tough position to be in, especially when you throw all your resources into football. Like even though I graduated, I got my degree and all that good stuff, I still had the primary idea that I was going to end up being a football player. So, 6 years in, when that dream just kind of dies and you're not expecting it to die at that point, you can definitely go into like some pretty dark spaces, and I'm thankful, that I have some good people around me. But yeah, I've seen a lot of different guys, it's not the same case for them, and it's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, and I guess the other mental aspect, being with everything going on right now in the world with the lockdown and everything, how are you, keeping your time occupied and just staying busy?
Yeah. So for me, I just try to stay physically active. That's one of the biggest things that I've taught myself is just staying physically active is one of the best things to kind of help your mental health. The more I can kind of go work out and kind of just release some stress doing that, it helps. And I've been doing a lot of reading, a whole lot of reading, man. Beforehand I was not much of a reader, but now, we have a library full of books, and I try to pick up a book at least once a day.
Q, I want to go back to some happier times, man. Back in 2015,
Yeah.
there were you made some big plays in 2015, man. A ton of them actually. Off the top of my mind, 24-yard catch that set up the go-ahead touchdown in Dallas. That was a huge win. Your big catch in overtime against the Patriots and everything. What do you consider, like, during that? Was that stretch run your happiest time? I mean, I would imagine it was as a player here. And what was your most memorable moment from that?
Yeah, I would say 15 or 16. 16 was definitely a fun year as well. But I'd say my most memorable, you brought up the Dallas catch. That one I remember. I hadn't, when I think about 2015, I don't think about that catch. But now that you brought it up, it brought back those memories. But I'd say, hands down, the most memorable would have to be the overtime catch against the Patriots. For me to have missed that, drop that catch, drop that pass from Fitz in regulation, and then to come back in overtime, he gives me the ball and I get a chance to show my speed. For me, it made it even bigger because, people hadn't thought that I had that ability in me. I ran the 4.4 at the combine. But they didn't think that I could do that with the ball in my hand. So to get an opportunity to really showcase that, I was happy about that.
Yeah, and Quincy, really quickly, going back even before that, many considered you like coming out of the draft pretty raw. Even remember you were waived during your rookie season, and like all the articles that came out after that about you doing like 100 reps a day after practice on the jugs machine. So like, what would your advice be to somebody like Denzel Mims, who's also considered, very talented, a little bit raw, coming out of the draft this year, just to like have a quick start and transition into the NFL?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's so many different things. I think the hardest part about kind of coming in early is just getting the playbook down. And I think that my advice to him, is just to get the playbook down. I think that's the most important thing. When you're able to just go out there and play fast, because you don't have to worry about, okay, what do I have here? What does this guy have here? Oh man, I forgot this or that. I think that's probably number one thing that gets most guys messed up in their first year. Then after that, just trying to make sure you're technically sound. For me, I started to kind of just play and just allow my play to go. But if I could rewind it, I would hope that, once I got the plays down, that I was really making sure that I was a technician. I had the physical ability to play the game. So, if I could have really made sure that I was consistent with my technique, could have helped me out in 2015, 16, and however many years I would have been playing if I stayed healthy. So, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion throughout this offseason, obviously before that, about Sam Darnold and what his ceiling is. And you've been with him both years so far. So I'm just curious, how good do you think that Sam Darnold can be with the right protection and the right offense and everything?
Oh man, I don't want to say any like quarterback names, but I think he could be, super talented. I think, you see his ability to throw the ball on the run. I don't know if there's too many people that can keep up with that. And he's been consistent with that. When you give him a chance to throw the ball on the run, he's super accurate. He's getting so much better at deep ball. He's getting so much better at using his eyes well to throw off the safeties. People talk about his footwork, but even when he has bad footwork, he still makes amazing throws. The guy has all the tools, and I think that it's just about the mental aspect. He's made some plays that I know he wants to take back, but that's all part of the growing process. And, I think that he's more than willing to kind of put in the work to get better. So, the sky's the limit for him.
Definitely good to hear. Now, Quincy, on this one, you can choose to pass. You can give a vague answer, no pressure at all. But during your time here, you've always been viewed as one of the leaders on this team, very well-respected voice in that locker room. So when you took to Twitter last year to voice some displeasure with the team, a lot of us had strong opinions in your defense, especially as other players were kind of voicing some complaints as well. So looking back, what was the vibe in that locker room like? Player to player, coach to player, should fans be concerned, or was that just, a disagreement / lack of communication that we all kind of, made way too much out of?
Yeah, honestly, I think, if I look back at it, like I said, it was a tough time for myself. I can't really speak about everybody else's position. I know that Jamal had some issues, and, there were a few other guys that were on IR that had some issues. For myself, it was just a tough time. I think that I didn't handle it in the best way. I don't look at it and say I shouldn't have done that, but I do know that there were other things that I could have done, right? So I would say that it was just a miscommunication. We had discussions, myself, the GM, head coach, just about communicating better. And I think that going forward, those type of issues will definitely be resolved. And the team will be able to just kind of flourish and be successful without having those type of issues.
Yeah, and I just actually have one more question. So going back to 2015, the last game of the year in Buffalo, man, and we were there. We were right in the front row, right behind you guys, cheering it on and everything, man. And I got to say, that was about as depressing a loss as a Jet fan that I've been through. I can imagine as a player how rough that must have been.
Yeah.
Was there like a moment that when you guys stepped down on that field or something where you kind of looked around and thought, man, this could be trouble. This could be a rough day, or did you guys have confidence that whole game that you were going to pull it off or figure out a way to pull it off, and then just didn't really happen?
Yeah. So if I look at if I just kind of go back in my own mind, because I can't really tell you what the vibe was for everyone else. For me, I was a young guy. I was like, this is our opportunity. I'm going to be going to the playoffs. But the hardest part for myself, and this is, I hate to admit this because I played in Nebraska, but that was like our very first cold game of the whole year, Yeah. And I think at least for me, I let that get to my head, and it was tough. I think, on top of the fact that Buffalo really kind of wanted to, whoop our ass in that game. Mm-hmm. I think we allowed that to kind of get in our heads, and then we allowed the fact that, we thought it was a easy win, and there's so many different things that we could have done differently, but we can't take that away now. So I can definitely say that the cold, the overlooking that team, and them just really wanting to beat us. Those are the three really big factors. I mean, people try to put it on like one pass or like one interception or one lack of a defensive stop, but it was so many different things, man. You can't really just pick on one play. Like, we could have done better in so many different aspects of that game.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because it's funny. I a couple of years ago, I interviewed Lorenzo Malden for an article in the magazine, and he said a similar thing, man. He said, I asked him the same question. He said he knew right away when you guys walked out on the field, and he said he felt that cold, and he looked on the other sideline, and some of those dudes walked out with no shirts on, and he shook his head, and he said that kind of got him shook a little bit. And, I was laughing at that, because I was thinking to myself, it's like these guys are football players. You think that they'd be used to playing in the cold and everything, but we were in the stands that day. It was cold. It was cold.
And my soul is still there.
It was snowing a little bit too. And it's tough, right? Because we try to keep that it's a facade, really, of like, I'm a football player, I'm tough. But at the end of the day, we're humans, and like when it's cold, and I think a lot of times, we do try to tough it out and like, oh, fuck it, man, like, let's do this, but if you're not prepared for it, it's really tough to kind of get your mind right for that game, and everybody, you could just see it when we got back in the locker room after we warmed up. Everybody was putting on the tough skin, the Vaseline, they were putting on the sleeves, everybody grabbed their hand warmers. Yeah, it was like, man, I wish we would have just, like, before we got out there, prepared ourselves for it, because that Buffalo cold is different, man.
All right, so Quincy, final question, just a message to Jet fans and especially your fans out there.
Final message. I say for Jets fans, I think they should be optimistic. I think we did so many different things this offseason to prepare ourselves. Brought in new offensive linemen, brought in more talent, brought in more veteran presence. And I think everybody's hungry, right? I think it's the second year in Coach Gase's offense, first year with Joe Douglas as a GM who drafted guys. So I don't see why, we can't take this to the next level, And it's unfortunate that I'm not going to be able to be a part of it. But I think that, Jets fans should just be enthusiastic about what's going on, man. I think there's so much talent out there. There's so much that we're going to be capable of doing, and I think you should just look forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for your time, Quincy. Definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing personally. Q, man. We've seen each other at a lot of events, and we both support a lot of the same causes: Toys for Tots, mental health awareness, all that good stuff. And look, man, just as a fan of yours, a guy who rocks your jersey still and everything, man. I wish you all the best. I hope that, I hope you heal up 100%, whether or not you get back on the football field, just as a person, I want to see you heal up. And I know spinal stenosis is no joke. We saw David Wright go through it as big Met fans, and what that did to his career. And quality of life. So I wish you all the best with that, man. And you know, I still do hold out some hope that one day we'll see you back, you know, back out on the field, man.
No, keep that hope, man. Keep that hope.
I do, man. So, you know, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. You've always been great with us, you know, throughout the years with giving us your time and everything. And we really appreciate that.
Of course. I appreciate you, man.
All right, man.
Quincy.
Thanks, man.
Good talking to y'all. Y'all be good.
You too.
You too, man.